Well, a jolly good day to all your hockey fans out there. Landsman here for another episode of Shooting the Shit. No? No?
That was, you guys don't know this, but his first take was much worse. That actually wasn't bad.
Oh, sorry, guys. Well, hey, you know what? On that note, I'll just scratch the whole Irish accent and say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another wonderful episode of Shooting the Shit. I'm your host, as you guys all know, your one and only Landsman. Over on the other end, we got my buddy Z. What's happening?
Hey, man. Baby, I'm rocking the green hat. I see you got the green jersey. Looking good.
Absolutely.
Late, but there's no St. Patty's, no St. Patty's Day parade this year, so we do what we can.
We can only do what we can. We have our drinks on hand. Let's enjoy, talking to you guys. So we're gonna jump in right in. This past week and a half, the Habs had a huge 6-game road trip. The first 4 games we talked about it. They came out flat. They only had 3 points out of 8, and they knew that they had to salvage at least 3 or 4. We were talking about that, you and I. We said that if they could get 3 or 4 points, that would really be a little bit of a bittersweet end to the road trip. And then they did. They did. They managed to get 3 points.
Yeah, and I mean they did it in style yesterday with that comeback. They played well. I mean, overall against Winnipeg, they played well. They weren't lights out or anything, but they played well. They played very well against Vancouver. It was those 2 games against Calgary were beyond. They might have been their 2 worst games of the year. So, you look at it, and at least they come out with kind of 500. On a point percentage, they came out at 500, and like we had mentioned, and like you just said, like they salvaged a decent road trip. Now it's up to them to string some wins together at home because, I think you mentioned this on one of the episodes, but their home record over the last couple of years, that was a big issue for Julien. Besides special teams, he could never seem to sort it out at home, which is where you have the last change and you're supposed to be winning.
Yeah, I mean the consistency just fizzled in the last few years, and especially this year they have not been remarkable either. Like they started the year hot on the road, which is unusual, I guess, of elements. But then at home now this year, they're not doing too great. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to give you false information, ladies and gentlemen. I can be bad at that. So no, at home they're 5-5-1.
Right, and I mean
that's nothing to write home about. Pun intended, but yeah.
You know how it is. A lot of fans used to say, like, oh, maybe it's just the pressure of playing at home in front of the fans. Well, there's no fans this year, man. So what is the excuse? I don't know what it is. Is it, we talked about this kind of in-game strategy, in-game adaptation that Julien seemed to lack. He never matched his lines. He had last change, You just think that the Habs would be able to take advantage. Now, I know the Habs don't sort of have a killer elite player that they could throw out against the team's worst line and blah, blah, blah. But it's just one of the mysteries of the Habs the last few years. They have the talent to be good on the power play. They weren't good on the power play, They should have a good home record. They didn't have a good home record. It's one of those Hab mysteries.
Well, especially this past year. I mean, they went out and, usually it's always been a problem to get the big name from Montreal because more often than not, if you're not French Canadian, coming to Montreal and their market, their media, and the language barrier is a thing. It is alive and well, even though 120 years later of the NHL, but people don't want to come to Montreal. It's not something that they will say after the fact, and you hear it off more often than not. I grew up being a Montreal Canadiens fan. Or when Anderson came, they had a picture of him in a Habs jersey. When Suzuki came, they had a picture of him in a Habs jersey when he was a kid. But
yeah,
drawing the big name of like the contracts that you want to just eat up, like a Taylor Hall numbers, 1 year, $8 million, he would never have done that in Montreal. So when Bergevin went out, pardon?
I said, thank God we didn't do that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very glad.
Yeah.
No offense to Taylor Hall.
Give me Toffoli at $4 million any day of the week over Hall at $8.
I think we got the best deal of that. Honestly, we got the best deal of that. And I mean, that's the thing. So when we went out and got our players, we didn't get one big name, but we got 3-4 decent names. We got people Like, I know I'm going to mention it again, but we got cup winners, which is a good thing to have. They know what it is to go long, like have a long season. But we also had people that put up big numbers, like Toffoli.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, I mean, I'll say this. I'll disagree with the French Canadian thing because I don't even think French Canadians want to come here. I mean, there's been numerous examples, going back to like Daniel Briere, kind of, when he in his heyday, he kind of thumbed his nose at the Habs, and like that's why it was such a big deal when Pierre-Luc Dubois this year mentioned Montreal as a team he'd like to play for. I can't even remember the last time, a quote unquote, French Canadian star, if you call Dubois a star, but he's a very good hockey player, said that about Montreal. So it's a hard market to attract free agents to. Besides the sort of bubble that you exist in by being a Montreal Canadian in this city, you mentioned the language barrier. There's the high taxes, the weather. I mean, there's a lot. Yes, the heritage and the tradition, and playing in arguably the best market in the NHL in terms of fandom and just again mentioning the tradition is appealing, but these guys are human, man. They got families. They want to make money the same way you and I do. So they're looking at the tax situation. So it's a hard place to attract free agents. And so I think it was good. He traded for Josh Anderson. He signed him. He was able to pull Toffoli. He was able to sign depth players like Perry, who want to win a cup. They're not. Perry's not joining Buffalo. He joined Montreal because I think he believed Montreal had a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. So. Yeah, you're right. So they should be better, but they're not. They're almost the exact same team they were last year.
Yeah, they have that one great player. So this year his name happens to be Toffoli, and then you have people that are contributing but not on a consistent basis. You have Gallagher, who was riding hot, and he's like he's been playing decent. You have Deneau, who's got his second goal of the season last night.
He played a good game this way. It was the best game that
I know. The thing is, I don't want to hate on Deneau. I don't want to, because he's actually a really good player.
Oh, you need him. You need a guy like
he
Deneau.
Just hasn't been dealt a shit hand this year.
But the thing about Deneau, by the way, is defensively, he's still doing the job, especially 5-on-5.
100%.
His defensive numbers are good as a forward. I mean, he would still be in the Selke conversation, for this year. I don't think he'd win it, but he's just not scoring. His offensive, which was already limited, his offensive ability is almost disappeared. But I thought he looked good last night. Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears from forwards. Let's go to defense. I mean, we found out from the news from the Habs that Ben Sherratt, who broke his hand on a fight with JT Miller of the Canucks, is now out for 6 to 8 weeks. So essentially his season is done. Unless the Habs make the playoffs and unless his hand makes a miraculous recovery, he's done. So we had said that Mete will probably get the call to play bigger minutes or just to be slotted in. But now, out of left field, Ducharme says, hey, Xavier Ouellet, why don't you come in? He hasn't played the game since last year. What's your takes on why they made that move? Why did they take Ouellet, who has not played a game all year, in contrast to Mete, who, although he hasn't played much, he hasn't put up terrible numbers. He's actually been playing okay.
Man, it's such a tough question to ask and to answer, Davey, because the answer is I don't know. I get Mete's shortcomings. Okay, we talked about this again last episode, but he's weak on the boards. He gets pushed around in front of the net. And so, I mean, and he's limited, even offensively, in the offensive zone, he's limited. He doesn't have a big shot. He's not a dynamic stick handler. He transport the puck from the blue line to the other blue line and essentially drive the play into the offensive zone. He just can't do anything past that, right? So, Mete's got tons of shortcomings. I'm not saying Mete is better than any of the other, bottom four guys that you might cycle in instead of him. But what I do think the problem with the Habs is And, we've talked about Sherrod and Weber being a bad pairing because it's two stay-at-home defensemen. What did they do? They put Edmondson with Weber. That pairing is terrible.
That was a disaster.
And Kulak and Petrie, which are two dynamic, offensive defensemen, Petrie very much so, and Kulak probably underappreciated so. They the two games they played against Winnipeg, they dominated expected goals for and Corsi, the possession stats. So again, I default to this. I don't know what the answer is, and I'll throw it back to you, because is it an organizational thing? Is it something that Patrick? Wow, look at me, man! I just revealed my age.
Jumping the gun, are we?
Is it something that
to pick there?
Is it something that Carey Price told Bergevin a few years ago? Like, hey, man, like I need some big, strong defenseman to clear the path for me so I could see more. But it seems like over the last couple of years, the Habs have gone the completely opposite direction of the rest of the league, and put as many stay-at-home defensemen in their top 4, top 6 as they can. And to me, it's I don't understand it.
I think it's a recipe for disaster. It's not working. Unfortunately for not. I'm not a professional. I don't know what's going on in the room. I don't know what's said. I don't know what the mentality is between the coaches, but it just seems that the consistency, again, I'm going to mention that, is not there. It just seems, you can play around with the puzzle pieces only so much, but if you see after one game it doesn't work, okay, that's fine. But it's not like the Flyers Rangers game last night. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
Do we want to mention that? I mean,
I don't know, because I have Zibanejad in one of my pools, and I was very happy.
Yeah, I had him and I dropped him. Well,
well, he didn't play well this year, to go off on a tangent.
No.
Look, I'll circle back to this, and I'm going to ask you a question, because it's being talked about on Twitter a lot, so it's not a secret. But at least in the mainstream media, people don't like to badmouth Shea Weber. But you don't we repeat ourselves about the fact that, hey, you and I, we're not hockey players, we're not professional analysts, we're not professional statisticians. We don't have a history in the game. But we're two pretty dedicated, diehard fans. We've been watching hockey pretty much our whole lives. And we're going to give you the fan take, an experienced fan take. And you don't even need to be an experienced fan to see that Weber's been struggling this year. They had him paired with Romanoff. The Calgary games really, Mete looked bad. Mete and Kulak looked bad. Romanoff struggled a little bit. So they ended up switching around, right? They brought in Willette, like you said. They moved Petrie up with Kulak. They dropped Edmondson, played him with Weber. And other than the Kulak and Petrie, nothing else has worked either. I mean, Romanoff and Willette haven't looked good. Edmondson and Weber, who played big minutes against top lines, look terrible. So is there something wrong with Shea Weber? Is it as simple as saying he's getting older, it's a compressed schedule, the guy's getting tired, and he's on the downslope of his career? That's, again, a realistic take. Or is it simply that the Habs are not putting him in a position where he can succeed? They're not pairing him up with a puck-moving defenseman. They're probably playing him way, way more than he should be playing. I mean, what's the take? What's the take on Captain Shea Weber?
I mean, I would agree with both points, if that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I think he's not getting any younger. He's now 35. He's got to balance his hockey schedule, which is a game every second night. You don't even have time to go home, breathe, enjoy a second night off with your family. He has to just jump. And the thing is that when you have that much on your plate, it really does affect with your mentality. I mean, I'm not a father. You are. But I know that when we talk about Carey Price struggling, we said maybe it's because of the fact of the kid. He was having his third kid when he had Lincoln. But I know that Shea Weber is not getting any younger. He has a previous history with injuries, especially to his feet, to his ankle. He has big injuries. So maybe it affects his skating patterns. Maybe it affects he's never been a fast defenseman, but right now he seems like he's bag skating when he's playing a regular game.
Yeah.
So I think that it all plays into effect, and I mean he's put into like you said, put into situations where he has to take up everything. He is the power play specialist. He is the penalty kill specialist, but he's not.
Well,
You know, like right now, I think that he should be put on the second pairing of the power play. You know, like Petry's number one because Petry has shown that he is still very fast, so able, still offensive, and still knows how to skate back in time to block an opportunity on the other side. I don't know. I think this condensed schedule. I think everything going on with probably his personal life. It's making Shea Weber just feel very lethargic, making it harder for him to get his grinds going, his gears going.
Listen, I agree. I mean, from a personal point of view, listen, all the hockey players have a personal life, and so it's a difficult thing to single out. I'm not diminishing it because they're human beings. Like we forget it as fans. I mean, I only started realizing it when I got older and after I had kids and went through the ups and downs and sort of the emotional roller coaster that you can have after you have children and how it affected me in my personal life. I can't imagine it doesn't affect these guys as well, in terms of Carey Price, as we mentioned. But at the end of the day, the personal thing is it's not something that you can throw out as an excuse because everyone in the whole league is going through it right now. I think, more so as you rightly brought up, like he's had 2 surgeries on his leg. He had the surgery on his leg. Last year he broke his ankle, didn't even have surgery. Remember, he came back after like 5 games. It was this famous Nick Kyprios was like, "Oh, Shea Weber's retiring," and then he was like back in the lineup the next day.
Oh yes, that's true.
So listen, no one's gonna ever challenge Weber's toughness and sort of what he can bring to the table in terms of his, quote unquote leadership, which is what it is. I think he's playing too much. He's already on the second wave. Really, the Weber wave is the second one now because the Petry, Kotkaniemi, I think he plays with Tatar. Who else is in that pair? Gallagher and Perry, and there's someone else. That's been driving the power play offense. So, leave Weber out on the power play because of his big shot. Maybe it hasn't been the same weapon because he's incapable of sort of doing anything else with the puck, and he's constantly shadowed, so he can't even get his shot off. I actually think he'd probably be better off if you remove him off the penalty kill, where he should be an effective penalty killer, but they got to figure out a place to give him rest. I actually, and I wonder what you think about it because I don't know if you saw it. I said, so they're playing Vancouver, we can jump to that topic next, but they're playing the Canucks Friday, Saturday, back-to-back, and that wraps up their Canucks series, right? And I think they've played 7 games. They're 5-0-2.
That's exactly right. Yep. I was going to say, if you didn't know, I was going to say it. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean they've dominated the Canucks, like especially 5-on-5. I mean the 2 wins the Canucks had, which was I think was one of the games they scored like 3 power play goals, and then the one last week where Demko bailed them out. So anyway. Let's just say they come out and they dominate the Canucks on Friday. Okay, they dominate the Canucks. They win in dominating fashion. They're up 4-5-0. They can rest Weber in the third period. Play Romanoff extra minutes. Play Kulak. Play Willette. Whatever. Do you then? And I know it's a really tall ask because Sherratt's out. But I'm asking you: would you then sit Weber on the back-to-back on the Saturday? Give him the night off. Call up Fleury. Or bring Mete back in, pair Edmondson back up with Petry because that pairing's worked. And you could pair a Pylon with Petry and it'll put up good numbers. But you put Edmondson back with Petry, make that your first pair. Play Kulak with Romanoff perhaps on your second pair and let that be your top 4. And then play Mete and Willette sparingly on your third pairing. And I know it's a tall ask, but they seem to have Vancouver's number. They seem to understand, like the same way that it seems like Calgary matches up against the Habs really well and just stifles them. The Habs seem to do the same thing to the Canucks. And so if you're ever going to rest Weber in a back-to-back, it's this weekend against this team.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, I think it would give him that rest. I don't think, scratch him? No. I don't think you can scratch a guy that is your captain, that is your proven leader and all that. But yeah, can you give him less minutes? Can you afford to give him a more quiet night? If you, I mean, like, it's not to say that the points aren't important. Every point is important now, but it's points that you can afford to take that little gamble on because of the fact that you have that consistency. And I'm going to say, even if they don't play well on Friday, which I'm hopeful they will, we all are, but it will be interesting to see what they do, because they've been doing so much line juggling. It nauseates me. But it's like they're playing around with lines, but they're not playing around with lines in game. You and I talked about that. You talked about that specifically. If during the game that they're seeing the line is not doing well, they're not going to change it up.
Well, timeout. He went to the Gallagher-Danault-Tatar line yesterday in the third period.
Okay, I did not see that. Okay.
Yeah, he switched it around. He moved Armia down, I think, or he flipped Armia. I don't know if Armia even played that much in the third period, but he put Gallagher back with Tatar. He didn't touch Kotkaniemi, Drouin, and Anderson, and I think he might have played Armia with Suzuki then. But regardless, he made the change, and Gallagher scored the second goal, and that line dominated. Like I said, Danault had his best game in a while. And so I give him kudos. Because I agree with you, the constant line changing game to game is difficult. But in a game, when things aren't working, I don't mind it at all.
I encourage it.
In this season where you're playing the same team over and over, and they can adapt to you. So why not change it up, in the middle of the game? You're playing teams 9 times or 10 times. Like, throw a fucking curveball, you know what I mean? But I don't understand why he doesn't do it with the pairings. One thing we can go back to Weber is I do think they should scratch him, healthy scratch him as a rest day. Not because he's not playing well, but hey, we're playing a back-to-back. We kicked Vancouver's ass on Friday. We seem to have this team's number. We can bring in Mete, play him with Ouellette. Those two played okay in the bubble last year, if you recall.
Yes, they did.
Play Romanoff with Kulak. That pairing wasn't that bad earlier in the year either. And Edmondson and Petrie, just play them as your first pairing and maybe play them an extra 30 minutes and then give them the Sunday off, to sleep. I'm just like, I just think that the guy needs a break. And I know he's probably, I don't know, again, we're not in the room. He probably has too much pride to ever take himself out or say to the coaches, like, man, I need to take a step back, like give Romy more time or whatever. I just think the coaches have to make a hard decision when it comes to Webb.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm just thinking about is the repercussions of it, though. Because, like, I'll question this back to you. So, okay, say they take your word. They listened to you and they said, you know what, Z, you are a genius. We are going to scratch Weber. We're going to give him the night off. We're going to let him rest because he's not getting any younger. He needs to rest. He's tired. He's sore. Okay. Then Saturday night comes along and they absolutely obliterate the Canucks. Like, I'm just talking like, we're talking like 7-1 game, like against Winnipeg earlier, like that kind of score. And everything is working well with the D. All the Ds are plus players. They all log good minutes. The penalty kill was fantastic.
Good question.
What do you do next?
I don't think
because you know that the media is gonna be like lepers and jump on this and be like,
I don't think you put too much stock in it because it's the Canucks. And you've done this to the Canucks all year. And the reality is that, yes, people understand that Petrie has passed Weber as the Habs' #1 defenseman. People understand that Petrie paired with Kulak is the best pairing. Petrie paired with Edmondson is the best pairing. People have gotten that. They've gotten the fact that Weber is probably the second pair defenseman. He's still better than Xavier Ouellette. Okay. He's still better than Victor Mete. He's still, he's still an asset to the team. If anything, it might make the coaches realize, like, hey man, maybe we can roll with a different defensive, lineup with different allocation of minutes to rest Webb through the year, because they're going to need Weber in the playoffs. The playoffs is a completely different game, as we saw last year in the play-in / playoffs when Weber and Sherratt were valuable together, because refs put the whistles away. The game's more physical. You play the same teams over and over. You can lay the lumber a little bit more. And I mean, you're gonna need Weber if you make the playoffs. I'm not saying, listen, I'm not one of those people who's like Weber's done. That's a ridiculous statement. But he's not the same player he was. And I think that only people who don't realize that seems to be the Habs management and coaching.
And to be fair, I did not say he's done. I do not think he's done.
You're right. You've never said that.
I do not think he's done. I think he's still got a few years left at least. And I hope he does.
So we're speculating here about the Canucks. I mean, realistically, they're not sitting Weber, especially with Sherrod out.
Yeah.
But so they're playing the Canucks 2 games, all right?
Right.
Then they got the Oilers for 3, and then they got the Senators for 4. Let's just talk about the Canucks and the Oilers right now.
Sure.
What do you think is going to happen? How do you see it playing out? The Canucks are behind them. There are a couple of standings behind them. I know they're closer in points, but I believe the Habs have 4 or 5 games in hand. So what do you think?
Well, I'm going to check this because you asked about it, or because you just mentioned it.
Yeah, I saw something like by point percentage.
Points behind. Yeah, they're 2 points behind, but they are 4 games. Like the Habs have 4 games in hand.
Right, and I think by point percentage, I don't even think Vancouver's at 500. Like they're
no, they're 485. They are 15, 16, and 2.
So the Habs, they could nail the door, shut here if they can take 4 points out of 4. But how do you see it rolling out?
With Vancouver, I see it actually going to be consistent and like hopefully the 4 out of 4 points. I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy 4 points by any means because they've gone to extra time all the time, like almost all the time lately with Vancouver. But I mean, I always hope for the Nets, but I'm not going to get it. But no, I think it's going to be 4 points that we can easily salvage, or at least get 3 points at bare minimum, because I know that coming into next week, those 3 games against Edmonton are going to be probably the hardest games of the year.
I have to agree with you.
They are going to be playing against the team with aside from Matthews and Marner, the highest flash. And I think personally, this is me saying my hot take. I think Marner and Matthews are not as good as Draisaitl and McDavid. But
a lot of people would agree with you. I mean, first of all, McDavid is the best player out of those 4.
Yes.
You could argue that, I wouldn't even argue. I think Matthews is the second best player after McDavid out of those 4. I take Matthews over Draisaitl. But I think, Draisaitl, Marner are, you probably take Draisaitl because just he's got that offensive flair, even though defensively he's a bit of a question mark. But Marner's not exactly the greatest defensive player in the world either. So,
yeah.
Speaking of McDavid, so yes, I agree with you, by the way, just to backtrack. I think they'll actually – so the only way Vancouver wins is if Demko stands on his head. And I don't think they'll play Demko back-to-back. So I think we'll see Demko – in my books, other than Vasilevsky and maybe Marc-Andre Fleury, he's been the best goaltender in the NHL. I mean, he's literally carrying the Canucks right now. They are not a good team. They are one of the worst defensive teams in all the NHL, statistically, and he's literally carrying them. They got outplayed by Ottawa in back-to-back games. The only reason they won those games is I think they won in shootout and they maybe won in overtime. I can't remember, but 100% they got points because of Demko.
Yeah.
They can't even outplay Ottawa. So I just think
can wait for the record sometimes. So just
strange, but we do have 6 out of 10 versus Ottawa.
Yes.
But anyway, it comes down to this: if they can take those 4 points out of Vancouver, it only closes the gap on Edmonton, because I think they also have a game in hand or 2 games in hand on Edmonton. Correct?
They have 3 games in hand.
Oh, so there you go. So
they are 4 points behind Edmonton, and they have 3 games in hand.
So they take those 4 points from Vancouver, and that 3-game series right there, that's a playoff series, man. That
absolutely
very well determine who begins to fight for second place, and if the Leafs keep struggling, maybe even come close to that top place, and who's going to be fighting to make the playoffs. I really think that those are all 4-point games. I mean, yes. Edmonton or Montreal sweep those games, that's a 12-point swing, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's like it is team, like what we can hope for the Montreal Canadiens is that they play the same offensive flair that they had at the beginning of the year against Edmonton, where Edmonton didn't get their gears going at the same time, and we happened to jump on them quick. We beat them in the first 2 games. It was a score of 8-2, right? It was 5-1 and 3-1. Like if we can get to that those numbers, then that'd be fantastic.
I
But
just
right
think
now,
they're going to need
Edmonton is playing so good right now. It's hard.
right. They're going to
Not
need
gonna,
to stay out of the penalty box. Obviously, they're the most penalized team in the NHL. The Habs are, and you take penalties against Edmonton, you're losing, especially the power play for the Habs. They got to keep it in regulation. I mean, they can't beat anyone in overtime. The Habs, they're 0-8 in post regulation. You're not beating David in overtime, So they got to stay disciplined. They got to keep it in regulation. I agree with you. They got to jump on them early. They got to dominate them 5-on-5, and they're gonna need Price and Allen. I'm assuming Allen will get one of the 3 games.
I guess Allen's going to play Friday and Saturday.
On their head.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Allen will play one of the games for sure. But
yeah. So, anyways, man, and we can be having a much different conversation next week if these next 5 games go well and they take 4 out of 4 against Vancouver or 3 out of 4, and they can take 4 or 5 out of 6. The Habs might be closing the gap on Winnipeg and Toronto if those 2 teams struggle. Now, I don't see that happening. Toronto's got to turn the corner at some point, but man, this is going to be a fun, stretch run here in the North. I think there's Calgary, they made a coaching change. They're going to be looking to play better. Ottawa's going to want to play spoilers. Vancouver's got the hottest goalie in the division. It's going to be fun, baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, we've officially passed halfway point of the year. So right now it's just, it's only halfway through the season, but it is the stretch. It's the final stretch. So hopefully Montreal, for our sakes as Habs fans, they can come out ahead. But like we said, we'll see. We're going to recap with you guys what our thoughts were after this weekend. We're going to see how Friday and Saturday night plays out. We'll get back to you guys probably around Sunday. So, guys, on that note, I want to thank you all really from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate all the love, the support, the liking, the following, the subscribing. Guys, we really appreciate it, So, on behalf of myself, I am Landsman. Over on the other side, it's Z.
Guys, please just pray for the Habs to stay away from 3-on-3. Have a good one.
So, guys, on that note, I wish you guys all a great night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay awesome. Take care.